Thank you so much, Professor Steg. And so one of the key facilitators of what we've just been hearing about, picking up on the thread from Alexander Bekier, is the city. So much more seems to happen at city level in the progressive cities than at government level, right? And we heard about what SINTEF has been doing with Oslo in terms of driving down carbon emissions in construction and transport. Well, we're going to cross now to Washington, D.C., and find out what's been going on in the water sector. And I hear you saying, water, why water? Well, apparently 10% of greenhouse gas emissions are, one way or the other, related to water. Did you know that? I didn't. We're going to cross now and join, from Washington, D.C., Matt Ries from D.C. Water. Hello, Matt. Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, good to have you with us. Take it away.
Excellent, thank you. So, Nisha, you just referenced that 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. It comes from a sector that most people don't think too much about. Most people, frankly, take it for granted. It's one where our citizens are not only engaged, but they physically ingest this sector's output every single day. Cheers. And those same citizens' actions can have a direct impact on reducing those greenhouse gas emissions. So let's talk a little bit about the water sector. So I'm Matt Reese, and I'm really honored to be here as a part of this important conversation. And I am with DC Water. We are the water utility in Washington, DC in the United States. We are an urban water utility. And most urban water utilities have one of three roles. They are a public or private water infrastructure that is managed. We clean and provide clean drinking water. We collect and treat or discharge wastewater. We manage urban stormwater, water that falls in the city and has to be managed somehow. And or maybe a combination of all three of the above. And that's what we do in Washington, D.C. Now, we manage those water resources for about 2.4 million people all across the D.C. region. And we have one of the largest wastewater treatment plants in the world, known as the Blue Plains Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant. It is advanced, meaning that we treat to a very low level of pollutants. We discharge the highly sensitive Potomac River, shown here at the top of the photo, and then to the Chesapeake Bay, the largest estuary in the world. Now, we're proud of the fact there's kind of a dark plume there at the top center of the photo, and that is the effluent that comes out of our plant. Wastewater or used water comes in, and we send it out to the river crystal clear, looking like drinking water, frankly. And that is a kind of a turbid river with some very clean river going back. So we're proud of the fact that we return water cleaner than how we found it originally. So let's talk about the water sector and its relevance to greenhouse gas emissions, to energy transitions, the focus of this conference. So there's this concept of the energy-water nexus. That is that we need energy to provide water. There's a picture here of our water pump station, and all of those pumps require energy, of course. But then the energy sector requires water. So that is cooling water that might be used. It could be for the production of solar panels. It could be for hydropower, for example. So energy and water, of course, closely linked. And then the question then becomes, how do you take that and then advance this conversation about advancing our energy systems? And the quote that we opened up with, talking about the 10% of carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions for the water sector, this comes from the Carbon Disclosure Project and looking at worldwide. So if you want to talk about making a net zero transition, you have to include the water sector in that conversation. So let's talk about some of those opportunities. And one of the ways that we do that is by, if you think about wastewater or used water, as I referred to it previously, we think about the concept of extracting resources from a waste. Really is that concept of a circular economy. How do we take something that we used to just simply discard, turn it into something that's useful? I have a picture here of what we call our digesters or our thermal hydrolysis process. I will note that the Canby system at DC Water is the largest Canby system in the world. The Canby technology is from Norway, and we're pleased to be running that largest system in the world that helps us take our organic solids. We digest them. Some people call this the stomach of Washington, D.C. We take that, we capture the biogas, and we turn it back into energy. So again, taking that waste and putting it into a resource. We also have, and this was referenced in the first presentation of this segment, we use our wastewater that flows underneath our headquarters building to use as energy. We use it essentially as kind of a heat pump. And wastewater all over the world runs in a kind of a narrow band of temperature. So you can use it to heat your buildings in the winter, you can use it to cool them in the summer, and we use almost no energy to heat and cool our headquarters building. In the lower right-hand corner is a photo of a district energy facility, which was referenced earlier. This is in Vancouver, and it was built for the 2010 Olympics, and that wastewater thermal system was used to heat the Olympic Village where the athletes stayed. So district heating is one way that we can do this. But all of these examples I've given are really kind of what I would call behind the fence line. They're engineered and managed by the water utility, and this session is about lifestyle changes. So I want to leave you with two thoughts on engaging the public. And the first evolves around water efficiency. So for every liter that's preserved, for every glass of water that might be saved, that's one water that doesn't have to be pumped, extracted, treated, and that means less greenhouse gases associated with that are emitted. Now, in some parts of the US, I have here near Lake Mead, near Las Vegas, or you probably heard about Cape Town's Day Zero last year, where they're looking at running out of water. Water conservation is front page news. It's well understood. In a crisis, you don't have to tell people to save water. This is the part of the country that I'm from, the Midwest, outside of Chicago. It sits on the Great Lakes, one of the largest body of fresh water in the world. We share it with Canada, and water conservation is a bit of a hard sell. So I put these examples out here to say that there are opportunities, but it's not always easy to reduce that carbon footprint in the water sector. I want to talk a little bit, my second thought about engaging the public in lifestyle changes involves green infrastructure. And you're probably looking at this thinking, that doesn't look very green, Matt, and you would be right. What I'm showing you here is gray infrastructure. And this tunnel that we're showing here is increasingly a solution in urban areas about how do we manage stormwater and flashy storms that come as a result of some of that climate change. But we're looking at how do we transition from gray solutions to green solutions. Now, DC Water has about $6 billion of infrastructure in the ground. Much of that is underground gray infrastructure and pipes, and other cities are taking this approach as well. But one thing we've done is to try to offset some of this gray infrastructure with green infrastructure. It absorbs that rain at the surface. It puts it back into the groundwater, not into sewers, and it has these ancillary benefits. It increases property values, it decreases crime, it restores habitat, but it also is in the neighborhood. It's a part of people's lives. So it really is a part of a lifestyle change. And in some places it works. In some places we've had some pushback, I'll be honest. It has climate benefits as well. It reduces the urban heat island, and it has a reduction in that massive Scope 3 emissions associated with gray infrastructure and concrete. So I'm going to leave you with just those two examples of where the water sector intersects with citizen engagement and energy transition. I look forward to the discussion in the panel. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Matt.